All right, family, and we are live. We are live. What is going on? What is going on, family? Shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you for tuning in. Shout out to everybody who's tuning in at a later time or a later date. I'm thankful for that as well. Gonna have a great conversation tonight. Now this is a scholar. I got a scholar with me tonight. I got a scholar with me tonight. Y'all seen him on the show plenty of times. I want to welcome back to the platform in the year of 2026, none other than student minister Dr. Wesley Muhammad. Indeed. All right, Black Man.
How are you?
I'm doing great. My year started out great. I'm gonna tell you one thing that and this is uh one thing I learned from the Nation of Islam when I was young. This year I have been very disciplined with a lot of things in my personal life that I want to implement in my life. And yeah, I'm thankful. And anytime I implement discipline in my life, I always go back to the early lessons in my early childhood of hearing the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and what that did for me. So I'm glad to have you on here, my brother, and I'm ready
Well,
to get going tonight.
let me say that is so good. It will benefit you and your loved ones, your
Yeah.
discipline,
Yeah.
because in this day and time, discipline will save our life. Discipline isn't just for Muslims in the Nation of Islam. You know, everybody who knows Brother Wesley knows I'm maize and blue. I'm Wolverines through and through. And we just suffered a traumatic event with our dear brother, our black head coach, just losing almost everything. And it was a discipline problem.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so having self control, having self discipline in all phases of our life will absolutely go a long way in saving us black people a lot of
Oh
grief.
yeah. Oh yeah. We Dr. Wesley, I always have interesting topics when you come on. And it's always interesting because you come from the Nation of Islam, and I know sometimes people think you could be biased in your research. And I just love it. I absolutely love it. I love the approach that you come from, and I always learn a great deal when you're on here. Tonight's topic is nothing different. It's just as interesting. Let me pull this up on the screen real quick.
Before we get
Yeah.
started on the subject, can I say something about that point you just made?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because it's important. It is the case that, in particular, your audience, I try to read notes and comments after the show. Your audience and many audiences assume that I come to these conversations biased because I have on a bow tie and because I represent the Nation of Islam. The fact of the matter is, the audience is biased.
Oh.
Whenever I come on your show, it's for a subject that I have published on, that I
Mm,
have submitted scholarship to the public square.
mhm.
And the people who accuse me of being biased in my scholarship, as you will attest, my scholarship is not biased. Nothing that I have written on can be written off as Black Muslim rhetoric.
Mm,
But your audience tends to be dismissive based on their own biases. They don't avail themselves of my scholarship to see if what Brother Wesley is saying has any validity to it. And I always publish before I open my mouth on the subject. So the bias is not from Brother Wesley. I don't come with a pro Nation of Islam bias. I'm confronted with an anti Islam bias. And that greets me on most platforms, and that's okay. I'm used to it, but that's why I fight as hard as I fight. I throw the elbows I throw because it is I and we who have to overcome bias. I
Mm.
don't come on your platform with bias, I come with actual facts.
Indeed.
But I am received with a great deal of anti Islam bias. But I'm sure your audience today is of different stripes.
Dr. Wesley, in psychology, they call that projecting.
Yes, sir.
They call that
Absolutely.
projected.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So I believe some people just they project
There's a lot
their
of
own
projection.
thought. Yeah, a lot of projected indeed. One other thing I want to say before we get started, real quick, because this is important to say. Somebody in the comments section, and I want to ask you if this is true. Eric said, if I'm not mistaken, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said our righteousness would be our salvation in the last days.
Will be our
This is true.
salvation.
Okay,
Absolutely. And
excellent.
those last days of which he spoke are
Mhm.
the days right now. Our righteousness will save our life. I stuck with the language you used, Brother Rich, discipline rather than righteousness, because a lot of your audience, they are para religious, they are above religion and don't want to hear the language righteousness, but discipline, whether you are atheist or a true believer, discipline will save our life today.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Let's get this thing going, Dr. Wesley. I'm excited now.
Yes, sir.
Let me share
Do
this
it.
on the screen. Man, something big went down, Wesley, in Zimbabwe.
Yes, sir.
And you recently wrote now tell the people exactly what you wrote. Because I've been reading this, and this is I heard about this, but I never went into it. And you
Yes, sir.
had me reading this, you had me going on TikTok, you had me on YouTube, you had me glued on my screen, man. So
Praise
tell
the
the
Lord for
people
Allah.
what exactly happened in Ariel primary school in Zimbabwe with this
Rule.
UFO sighting, my brother? I'm sorry, I mispronounced it. How you say it?
No, no, Ariel, yep,
Okay.
and Rua, the
Yeah.
village, Ariel Elementary School or primary school is
Right.
located in Rua, Zimbabwe. Rua is a village about 14 miles outside of the capital city of Harare in Zimbabwe. And what you have is a report that I wrote, the 76-page report that I wrote on the subject of a very important UFO event, so-called UFO event, that
Mm-hmm.
took place September 16th, 1994.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a it's an 80-page report. I am, Brother Rich, I can be classified as a revisionist ufologist.
Okay.
A revisionist
Yes.
ufologist. I engage in revisionism.
Uh-huh.
Of course, ufology is the study on and writing on the UFO phenomenon. A revisionist is one who rewrites the history of a subject because the current history is wrong.
Okay.
And this is a rewritten history of that most important event that took place in Africa in 1994, because this incident has been deliberately misremembered by ufology.
Mm.
The US government concealed the black bodies of Roswell. Ufology itself has concealed the black bodies of Rua, Zimbabwe. So what happened on September 16th, 1994, and what happened since then that necessitated a revisionist historiography of that event. In 1994, Ariel School was a primary school that was mostly white. Today, it is mostly black. But it is very important that we understand that in 1994, this school was mostly white. It was established in 1992 to serve wealthy white expatriates in Zimbabwe, white Britons and white South Africans. They did not want to send their wealthy whites, did not want to send their children to the public schools of Harare. So they established Ariel in the village of Rua, which is 14 miles outside of Zimbabwe. This was a wealthy elementary school. It had a competition swimming pool. They had uniforms. These were wealthy white children. And so both on your flyer and on the cover of my report, we have black children experiencing a UFO. Well, that's part of the deliberate misremembering of this event. There were some black children involved, but there were 256 to 12-year-old children, most of them white. There were some black Zimbabwean children. There were some colored children. Colored was the designation for the mixed children. Most of the children that experienced this event were white. That's very important. So all of the contemporary reporting of this event show black children experiencing it, and that is a deliberate misremembering that has consequences. So white students of wealthy background at this wealthy Christian school. In fact, the name Ariel, the school is named after the archangel Ariel. So it's a white Christian school. On September 16th, it was Friday. This event began September 14th, Wednesday. Wednesday, September 14th, the mother wheel and the fleet of baby planes arrived in Southern Africa. Now, those who have heard me on your platform know the language that we use in the Nation of Islam. The mother wheel, the major craft, so-called UFO, and it has a fleet. These so-called flying saucers are what most people refer to as UFOs. They are the Air Force, the fleet of the mother wheel, which is gigantic. The so-called flying saucers or UFOs or baby planes, there's a fleet of 1,500 of them. Wednesday, September 14th, the mother wheel and a fleet of baby planes showed out in Southern Africa, made themselves known, flew throughout Southern Africa, Zimbabwe, South Africa, and other areas in the southern portion of the continent. And hundreds of reports came in that was setting the stage for the main event. That was Wednesday. Thursday, September 15th, A few of those baby planes arrived at the main location for the main event, which was Ariel School. Children on Thursday saw a baby plane or a so-called UFO, saw several of them. But the main event was Friday, September 16th. The children, during the course of their day, had several breaks, period breaks. But at 10 o'clock on Friday, they had a unique break. What was unique about this mid-morning break at 10 a.m. was that the children were out on the playground, but none of the faculty, none of the adults were out with them. Normally they are, but on this particular occasion, all of the faculty, all of the grown-ups were in the school having a faculty meeting. So the pilots of this craft selected that moment when all of the children were on the playground, but none of the adults were on the playground. They were sequestered in a meeting in the school. The baby plane, the craft chose that moment strategically to have the main event. As the children from 6 to 12 years old, 250 of them, as they were out playing with no adult supervision, one of the baby planes, one of the so-called UFOs, descended. Now, what I will do, I have some images.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind if I?
Yes, sir. No problem. Come on.
Go to it. A little better this. I'm gonna go. Here.
Once again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Great show. We already got over 1,000 people in the chat. Make sure you hit the like button. If you are not subscribed, make sure you also subscribe. We're in for an amazing show tonight. Here we go right here. Let me see.
Do you have my?
Yeah, this right here. Mhm.
Okay. So let me do this. There we go. Got that? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the craft descended and landed. Now it landed strategically outside of the playground area. There's swamp and there's brush. There's a wooded area. The swamp separates the playground from the wooded area. The craft made the point to land beyond the swamp in the wooded area where there's visibility, but the children could not cross the swamp to make direct contact with the craft. Based on the 62 plus testimonies that we have, the craft landed, and above the craft was several spheres that did not land. We've heard from 62 of the students. More saw it, but the investigators did not interview the youngest children. So while there were 250 children out, and probably most of them experienced the event, the investigators did not question any of the 6-year-olds, any of the smallest. So 62 of those 250 were interviewed. Most of, or today, all of ufology that writes on this event tells us that this is what the children experienced. After the circular disc, so-called UFO, I will now dispense with that language. After a baby plane landed beyond the swamp and the brush on beyond Ariel school grounds, 3 figures came out of that craft. One of the figures positioned himself on top of the craft. 2 stood on the ground. Now, ufology tells us that this is what the children encountered. Typical aliens. The only distinction being that instead of gray aliens, these gray aliens have a pasty white complexion. This is a deliberate misremembering of the Ariel school UFO event. None of the children at that time described their encounter this way. What the children described was this. The children described seeing black men. And both of these terms are very important. Black and man. They insisted on describing the beings they saw as men, and they insisted on describing them as black. Now, they were exotic looking. At first, they thought that they were the black Zimbabwean groundskeepers that worked at the school. Typical black men from Zimbabwe. But then as they looked closer, they were disabused of that. They weren't regular Zimbabweans. They were too exotic in their appearance. Their hair was not curly like a Zimbabwean. It was long and straight. One of the children said it was like Michael Jackson's hair. The robust features, broad nose, broad lips of the typical Zimbabwean male that these white students were familiar with, the broad nose, broad lips, these beings did not have that. To the extent that they saw the nose and mouth, they were small, they were thin. But what stood out, other than their very black skin and the black bodysuit that they wore, was the big black eyes. But they were slanted, but it's important to clarify that it was not these eyes. It was not the typical alien eye. The obsidian, the almond-shaped, purely black obsidian eyes that lack the sclera or the white of the eye, lack the iris, lack the pupil. That is not at all what the children in 1994 described. They literally described the eyes. They were big, they were black, but they were set within a white sclera. They were more like, they described them as cat eyes, not alien eyes. And we have, for example, Great example right here. This is the lie. This is the truth. This is one of the drawings because, back up, and you can interject at any point if you have a question.
Mm-hmm.
This event occurred Friday morning. Monday, when the children came back to school, the headmaster of the school, Mr. Colin Mackey, he had the children draw their experience, what they saw, what they experienced, and write what they experienced. So we have a good deal, and I have here a good deal of about 30 of the drawings are available. This is one of the drawings from Mally, student witness Mally Makamore.
Mm-hmm.
This is what one of the beings that he saw. Now, of the three beings, one had long hair, long straight hair, like Michael Jackson's, and the other two were bald. Mally here drew the one who was most prominent, the one with the long hair. But look at the eyes. The eyes, they are oval, they are big, but they are not gray alien eyes. They are not this.
Mm-hmm.
They show the sclera, the white of the eye. They show a big iris and tiny pupil. The iris and pupil was no doubt black and big, which gave rise to the consistent description of the children that they had big black eyes. So this is the basics, and I will stop here as the introduction of the 62 students who were, more than 62 witnessed this, but 62 were interviewed. And the sum total of the testimonies of these children left no doubt that the beings they saw absolutely did not look like this. The beings they saw looked like this. And I will stop there and let you ask.
Yeah. So, Dr. Wesley, when you first started talking, you said that these beings waited specifically for no adults to be around.
Yes.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think this happened with just the children around?
And very good question. And I believe the answer. Now, of course, we can only speculate.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I know what the strategy was. Later, I want to show a short video. There's actually two videos, if you would allow.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to show. One is like 3 minutes. The other is like 2 or 3 minutes. But you're going to hear a very important young lady, Lisa Pillay, one of the witnesses. You're going to hear her say something which I absolutely believe is the answer to your question. Why did these scientists on the baby plane want the children to experience them unhindered, uncontaminated by the adults? I believe Lisa Pillay, she was an 11-year-old at the time. She was one of the colored girls. Mm-hmm. She went on to be very important. She's on the circuit right now. We're going to have much more to say about her. 11-year-old Pele said this in an interview. It said, well, we told our teachers and they didn't believe us. She said, but children have to tell the truth. Children can't lie. And that is so significant to me because what I show in my report, when the adults got involved, they're the ones that lied. The children, in their purity, they reported they did not lie. The children experienced something that did shake them. It shook them so that all they could do was tell the truth about it. They had no interest in lying, and they did not lie. When the adults inserted themselves, the lies began. And so I highlight the chief investigator there were two chief investigators of the Ariel UFO incident. BBC correspondent Tim Leach. He was the first on the scene. He represents the media. Second on the scene was Cynthia Hind. She was a ufologist. She was the African coordinator for MUFON, the UFO organization MUFON. Cynthia Hind was the Africa coordinator for MUFON. Of these two, primary, and then Dr. John Mack comes a little later. But of these first two, Tim Leach from BBC, he told the truth. He suffered the consequences for doing so. Cynthia Hind, she authored the lie that became Ariel Misremembered. So in my report, I have a section entitled The Crimes of Cynthia Hind. Cynthia Hind began the process of erasing the black men out of the Ariel narrative. See, the idea that this well-documented, this powerful UFO case involved not the ufology-approved gray aliens, but involved exotic black men. She was not going to hang her ufology credentials on such an event, so she changed it. She maliciously handled the evidence and the testimony of the children. We have archival footage of her doing so. But I would like to play a short video. May I do that?
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. I was on mute. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Because we'll get to Cynthia Hind further. But let's start with the first one on the scene was BBC correspondent and journalist Tim Leach. He arrived Monday morning. He interviewed the children. I want you, before Cynthia Hind did, I want you to hear the voice of Tim Leach. What he says, what I'm going to play for you after doing his initial investigation. He was floored by it. Now, this is a veteran journalist, or was, for BBC. He did war zone reporting. So he reported on the wars that broke out in Africa. he had crew members killed in these wars. So this was a hardened, in his words, a hard-ass journalist is what he was. And then he encountered the Ariel UFO incident, and it messed him up mentally, and it ruined his career because he reported on the incident as it happened according to the students. Now, he's the one that reached out to Dr. John Mack, the Harvard psychologist whose name is famously attached to this incident.
Mm-hmm.
It was Tim Leach who called him. He needed help. Tim Leach said that this is above my pay grade. I can deal with war zones in Africa. I can't deal with this UFO thing, but there was something specific about this UFO thing that messed Tim Leach up. So he called Dr. John Mack to get help. What I'm going to play for you, for the audience, is the message that Tim Leach left on Dr. John Mack's answering machine when he made his first call to Dr. John Mack asking for help. This is the message from the answer machine. Listen closely and read the caption.
I was a realist. It was totally out of my remit. I could handle war zones, but I could not handle this UFO thing. It just didn't make sense. And that's when I had to call in extra help. Cynthia, I'm putting in touch with Dr. John Mack. And I got his number at Harvard University. Image from BBC Television News and Horizon Barbie. Message for Dr. John Mack. This concerns a UFO sighting over a school where a Harvard landed, a black man got out, and of course, this was being taken seriously despite being the BBC. Please call me as soon as you can. Thank you.
Calling about a UFO that hovered over a school. A black man got out. I need your help. See, this Tim Leach's words reverberate across time. He told the truth about what happened at Ariel. A UFO hovered, a UFO landed, and a black man, not a gray, not an alien, a black man got out of this UFO. So Tim Leach told the truth, and his career with the BBC paid dearly for it. So I yield the floor to you, my brother.
Now, Dr. Wesley, I want to ask you, I believe, let me go, give me 1 second, Doctor. I want to hit up your Instagram real quick. I want to, because there was a comment on there. Where is this at? All right, well, I don't see it right now, but you keep referring, now, is this a black bodysuit? Or is this black skin? Did these children describe their face as being black as well, or was it just their clothing or their suit and being black? Dr. Wesley.
Very good and important question, because that's part of the trickery,
right,
that has been used to erase the black men out of the Ariel narrative. This is such a well-documented case. We can easily answer that question and impeach that claim. The answer to your question, again, let me set this up. 62, go back a little bit. Of the 250, so your audience doesn't say, why don't they answer the question? The answer is they describe, so let me get out there. They describe black face, black hands in a black suit. The whole body was black. The face was black. The hands was black. They were black men in a black bodysuit. Now, let me unpack that. So no one can say he didn't answer the question. I answer it now. I want to unpack it because God is in the details. Because I don't want you to just believe me because I said it. I want to demonstrate the truth of the answer. Now, there were 62 students who were interviewed of the 250 that were on the school grounds at the time. One of the most important investigators of the incident actually was not Cynthia Hind, was not Dr. John Mack. It was Tim Leach to me, but also, and in particular, this gentleman, German ufologist, Michael Hesemann. Now, Hesemann arrived in Zimbabwe in 1997, 3 years after the event. The significance of Hesemann's investigation is this. Cynthia Hind interviewed 12 of the 62 students. Dr. John Mack interviewed 12 of the 62 students. Hesemann interviewed 44 of the 62 students. His investigation is more thorough than all of them. Now, I also want to highlight this. He wrote the fruits of his investigation in the magazine that he edited, magazine. Now, what's important is his article is a two-part article. The first part is written in English. The Rua incident is what it's called. Part 1 is written in English. Part 2 is written in German. The most important of these two is the German. It's in the German where the German part 2, where he quotes verbatim the testimony of the students. And testimony after testimony after testimony, the students describe, which you find laid out and quoted verbatim in the German portion of this two-part article. The students say they were black. Some saw black men with a black bodysuit on. Some had or saw different colored bodysuit, but they were still black men. The difference in how they saw the bodysuit was because the bodysuit reflected light. So some of them saw the being surrounded by light and they thought it was gold. So one source for your audience, Michael Hesemann, documents the testimony of the 44 students that he interviewed. 32 of them say they saw the beings Others just saw the craft, but 32 of them saw the beings. And in the German portion of his article, he gives their testimony, and that testimony consistently says they saw black men. Now, let's get even more specific. As I said, that Monday, the students were asked by headmaster Colin Mackey to draw what they saw. And we have their pictures. This is a very important one. Claire Rixum is one of the students, many students who saw the beings and drew what she saw. And as you see in her drawing here, the figure that she saw running, she drew the bald. She didn't draw the one with the long hair. As I said, according to their testimony, there were 3 beings, all black men. One had long straight hair and 2 of them were bald. She saw one of the bald ones. She said he was running, but floating on air, levitating. And as you see the black bodysuit, but he had a black face and black hands as well. And testimony from other students say specifically the face was black. So no, it is not the blackness of these beings were never limited by the students to the black bodysuit. They made the point that, and this is the language that they used, all black. When they said he was all black because he had on a black bodysuit and his face and hands were black. So they used the language, he was all black. They specifically said the face was black.
Right.
It was Cynthia Hind who began the process of reducing the blackness of these black men to the black bodysuit. Cynthia Hind, the ufologist, who was revolted by the idea of black men coming out of the spaceships. And now, just to be clear, so your audience, this is Cynthia Hind and her assistant, Gunther Hoffer. These are the 2 who began the process of misremembering Ariel. Cynthia Hind is the one who was revolted by the testimony of these children that it was black men that got out of this spaceship. And she did everything she could successfully to steer the children away from black beings to black dressed beings. And then she introduced the pale-faced alien in later writings, and she manipulated and was deceptive in her writing. She misquoted the actual testimony in order to create the pale alien that landed on the playgrounds of Ariel. And my report is a forensic investigation. I forensically detail and demonstrate how Cynthia Hind misrepresented the testimony that she took from the students. It is not speculation. It is demonstrable fact because we have the archival footage of the exchange. So we know, we get to see and hear what the students told her. And then in her published reports, when we compare what we heard them say, when we read what Cynthia Hind says that they say, we see Cynthia Hind being deceptive and doing violence to their testimony.
And Dr. Wesley, before we continue, tell the people, and let me just share this comment because this is important. You got to let people know when they're doing something.
Yes,
Wesley's scholarship is top notch. Lynn Dream says this is so detailed. I love it. The nuances are important. This is scholarship, family. This is how things were before social media took over and everybody just watched a 5-minute video and do it. Like, this is real deal scholarship. And I want everybody to support your work and your scholarship and this 94-page report. I'm going to share, what is it, Cash App or PayPal?
You can do Cash App or PayPal. Cash App, the report, the forensic analysis is available. You can Cash App. It's $10. I'll send you a PDF. You can send $10 Cash App to $Dr. Wesley, DRWESLEY. Include your email. You send $10 Cash App or $10 PayPal, Dr. Wesley Muhammad at gmail.com. You send $10 and your email address. I will send you the PDF copy of this forensic report.
Definitely. Shout out to King Simon in the chat. King Simon is also sharing Dr. Wesley's links and info, but I highly advise everybody to support this brother and to get a copy of this report. I got it, and like I said, he had me glued to the screen reading this. I end up going to TikTok, and wow, I'm just glad we're doing this show. Let me bring this up real quick, Dr. Wesley. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Also, we got about 2,000 people in the chat. Shout out to all of y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Dr. Wesley, this is the second time I'm hearing of an account of these jet black beings. There was a NASA scientist, I believe, Norman Bergrun,
absolutely,
who said he's seen jet black beings on Saturn. The children just was drawing pictures like you just showed of jet black beings in Zimbabwe. I want to ask you, number one, do you think there's a connection? And number two, did the most honorable Elijah Muhammad ever make any mention of Saturn? Did he ever talk about Saturn and aliens or anything like that? Anything in particular on the planet Saturn?
Thank you for that. So the subject, that particular subject, when you say you heard another account of these jet black beings, the fact of the matter is all of the authentic accounts have these jet black beings. Ufology has erased them from the record. So these black beings aren't isolated incidents. They are not outliers.
I'm glad you said that.
The great alien is not real. The great alien is a fabricated myth. The great alien's job is to hide the jet black beings that were actually encountered. And in my book, Chariots of the Black Gods, that's what we're talking about. Eric von Daniken wrote Chariots of the Gods, but the truth of the matter is it's Chariots of the Black Gods. The riders of these chariots are black. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, absolutely, before there was such thing as ufology, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told the world, and in September 1942, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had the opportunity to tell the U.S. government personally that the beings flying these craft are black and they are Muslim. I'm going to come back to that. In this book, I document 500 pages. I document that the jet black beings are the truth of ufology. All of this other stuff, the white Nordics, the gray aliens, the reptilians, all of that is fabrication. I document that. That's why it's the UFO reality and the alien hoax. The truth of ufology. Ufology's best kept secret is the Asiatic blackness of the UFO pilots. Now, let's clarify. You asked about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Saturn. What Norman Bergrun is very important, but we got to be clear on what he said and did not say. What he said about Saturn was not the black beings. He wrote on the vehicles, the UFOs, that he had images of from his work with NASA and for NASA, images of craft that he saw, and there are pictures of around Saturn and Saturn's moon. He did not place the black beings on Saturn. This is what he said, very importantly. And again, I document that thoroughly in my book, 500 pages, Chariots of the Black Gods, the UFO reality and the alien hoax. What Norman Bergrun said was, he had access to a NASA photograph. The context of the photograph was not Saturn. The context of this photograph was the moon, specifically the Apollo 11 landing on the moon. Neil Armstrong and his crew experienced on the moon the baby planes, and it terrified them. Neil Armstrong also saw black beings associated with the craft. Neil Armstrong also heard from his headset. His comms were interrupted by a sound that he had never heard before. It was a musical sound. He didn't know what it was at the time, but after he got back to Earth and traveled and arrived in Cairo, Egypt to give a lecture, he heard the call to prayer, because Egypt is a Muslim country. And so when it was time to pray, he heard the call to prayer, and he recognized that that was the sound he heard that interrupted his comms while on the moon. So Neil Armstrong and Apollo 11 crew not only saw UFOs watching them as they landed on the moon, he saw the black shadowy beings associated with the craft, and he heard the Muslim call to prayer coming from these craft and these beings. Now, what Dr. Norman Bergrun said, he saw one of the images, because there were many, there was video and stills taken, but of course NASA never released it. Norman Bergrun saw one of the images, not from Saturn, from the moon. He saw in this image 7-foot tall black men. And he insists they were black men. And the white, just like Cynthia Hind did, the white woman who was interviewing him, she tried to deflect and tone that down. Oh, they saw dark beings.
Yeah. He said, no, black.
Black men. This is what they do. The Hind did it in Ariel. Right? They were black men. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did not. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad described black men on Mars, and he suggested that there were similar, but he didn't describe, but he suggested that there were similar beings on Venus, but he did not say, he did not place any on Saturn. And to be clear, neither did Norman Bergrun. He writes on the ships, the UFOs, that he attests to by Saturn and Saturn's moons. But the black men that he talks about were from the moon.
You know what's interesting? Because you just said, and you just mentioned music. Now, what you said was making music. You said
so it was the call to prayer. He heard the call to prayer. Now, of course, sound waves don't travel in the vacuum of space. Radio waves do. This is why we can hear Houston, we have a problem, right? Because radio waves transmit. So there was communication between Mission Control and Apollo 11. So their comms were functioning.
Yeah.
What happened with Neil and the Apollo crew is there was an interruption in the comms. They heard the call to prayer. The call to prayer interrupted the communication between Mission Control and Neil Armstrong. And so he heard in his comms the call to prayer. I said musical because if you ever heard the Muslim call to prayer, it is musical. It's melodic.
And that don't mean to cut you off. The reason why I asked that, I'm just connecting different incidents that happened. I watched a video of one of the young girls from Zimbabwe, and they were talking, and I believe this is when the Harvard guy was interviewing them, and he asked what was one of the scariest things.
The hum.
And she said the sound, and she said it sounded like a flute.
Yeah,
she said it sounded like the flute. So I'm like, wow, that's very interesting.
It's very interesting, and the connection you make is very interesting and important because again, these are young people, right? So we have to, so between 6 years old and 12, 13 years old, and so they're wealthy white students, so they're experiencing this traumatic, this very bizarre experience, and they don't know what to make of it. So you are right. Several children said they heard this flute sound that disturbed them. That could very well have been the same sound that Neil Armstrong heard in his comms on the moon, because the melodic nature of the call to prayer, from a child's perspective, it could be flute-like.
Right.
Great point, Brother Rich.
No, very interesting. Wow, it is good stuff. What is, I've done several shows with you. You've talked about Roswell. You've talked about different the government cover up. Now you're talking about the UFO community cover up. What do you think Elijah's conclusion about the mother whale and everything that he was talking? What was his conclusion? Like, what should me and you be doing with this information? Because this is very good information. What should we be doing it according to the most honorable Elijah Muhammad?
Yes, great question. And I'm open it by saying this. I'm going to state it emphatically because your audience needs to know. The conclusion that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has of this phenomenon the U.S. government by 1958 came to verify and agree with the narrative of the UFO phenomenon as given specifically by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. What I'm saying is the U.S. government agrees with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, not just that it's black people flying these craft, but that they are black Muslim people flying this craft. We can document that what I label a black Muslim crypto civilization, the government knows that it's a black Muslim crypto civilization. That is the context of the UFO phenomenon. Black Muslim crypto civilization. Crypto means hidden, secret. It's a secret, it's a hidden black Muslim civilization that is at the root of the UFO phenomenon. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad revealed that to the U.S. government in 1942. By 1958, the government agreed with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and that has been the covert position of the U.S. government from that day to this.
Mm.
When you hear on Capitol Hill, when you watch the hearings, the UAP hearings, and you hear all of these whistleblowers use the language non-human intelligence, they are not referencing extraterrestrial aliens. We can document that specifically they mean by what they mean by non-human intelligence is black Muslim intelligences. This is the position of the U.S. government since 1958. They had confirmed it, and we can confirm that. So what should black people, what should the world do with this knowledge? We need to get some get right. You know, this technology, it's not just flying around in the skies in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
When I say that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad affirmed and the U.S. government confirmed that it is a black Muslim civilization that is at the root of the UFO phenomenon, that has consequences. See, not just the black part of it, of that equation, but the Muslim part of that equation. So there are those in your audience that love the UFO phenomenon but hate the Nation of Islam. See, that's their bias at play. But the fact of the matter is, family, you cannot love the UFO phenomenon and hate the Nation of Islam, because you can't separate the Nation of Islam from the UFO phenomenon that you're so enthralled with. The reason the government has been so hostile covertly toward the Nation of Islam is because we are the disclosure threat. The reason the government treats the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan not as a religious leader or social irritant, the U.S. government has the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan tagged as what's called a disclosure threat.
Mm.
a disclosure threat. What does that mean? It means what America's UFO secrecy regime, what they know in secret, and what they keep from the public through classifications, compartmentalization, a secrecy regime. The government keeps what they know from the public, but Farrakhan exposes, he discloses what the government keeps secret. Now, I can document where. For example, June 1982. President Ronald Reagan was given a UFO briefing by the National Security Council. President Reagan is one of only 8 U.S. presidents that were read into America's UFO secrets. Presidents aren't privy to America's UFO secrets. Only 8 in the 250 plus years of the American presidency, only 8 were read into America's UFO secrets. President Reagan was one of those. And in June 1982, he was given a UFO briefing by the National Security Council. And at that June 1982 briefing, he was informed of UFO activity that precisely paralleled what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad described of the mother wheel. Reagan learned of the Rendlesham Forest UFO event that came right up out of the playbook that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad described. The mother wheel and baby planes put on a show on American bases in Britain in December 1981. During that intelligence briefing, President Reagan was informed of that. And he was informed that the beings on this craft were the black angels that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad described. Because they are hostile to American interests, President Reagan was informed that they are demons. Now, President Reagan is the one, after UFO briefings like this, who tagged the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan as a disclosure threat. What the Reagan administration knew, but was keeping secret, Farrakhan was disclosing to stadiums with tens of thousands of black people in them. So Farrakhan was and is a disclosure threat to the Nation of Islam.
Indeed.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Stephen Greer is not a disclosure threat. Zachariah Sitchin was not a disclosure threat to the Nation of Islam or to the U.S. government. The Nation of Islam is the disclosure threat according to the United States government.
Dr. Wesley, I'm going to ask one more question, and then there's a couple of questions from the chat, if you don't mind. I want to ask after that. Okay.
There's one more video I want to show.
Yeah, indeed. So you mentioned President Reagan, and it made me think about President Eisenhower. And there's this famous conspiracy theory on the internet saying that he met with the Greys in 1954, and they offered him technology, I believe, in exchange for nuclear disarmament. Now, I want to ask you, Dr. Wesley Muhammad,
yes, sir,
if this has any truth to it, and if the Greys are fake, then did Eisenhower meet with these black Muslim men that are you talking about? And did these black Muslim men give Eisenhower this advanced technology, Dr. Wesley Muhammad?
Great question. And so let me start off with
Yeah.
the grays are fake. Now let's double back. Incidentally, the Eisenhower encounter was going to have a full chapter in my book, Chariots of the Black Gods. For a number of reasons, I decided in this first edition of the book not to include it. But the Eisenhower encounter was going to have a full chapter in my book. I will eventually publish on the Eisenhower encounter. Now, I believe that there is truth, but what is presented today is fiction. Now, most of the fiction associated with the Eisenhower encounter don't have him meeting with Greys, they have him meeting with Nordics. See, let me say this. The most popular alien species that you will encounter on the internet and in ufology, the three main most popular alien species, of course, are the Greys, the reptilians, and the Nordics, the tall whites with blonde hair, blue eyes. The most popular narrative of the Eisenhower encounter has Eisenhower meeting with Nordics. When I finally publish, and because I haven't, I'm not going to go too far because I never speak before I publish. Because I don't want to make it easy for anybody to be dismissive. So I will eventually publish on the Eisenhower encounter. I do believe that it occurred. And yes, he certainly did not meet with the fictitious mythological Greys because they don't exist, except in U.S. government disinformation and the ufology, the victim of government disinformation. But he did not meet with the Nordics either. That is another disinformation device. I do believe that the evidence justifies the conclusion that in 1954, President Eisenhower had an encounter with the occupants of a baby plane. Now, a lot of detail has been spun. I have no reason, I do not believe the reports of a treaty being entered into, an official Project Serpo. That's fabrication. So I believe that there's a kernel of truth in the Eisenhower encounter narrative. I believe it did happen. But most of what you encounter about that event is misinformation. And I will eventually publish on it.
Yeah, definitely want to. Can't wait for you to publish that, my brother.
That's going to be a report of its own.
Indeed, yeah, that's good shit. That's going to be a real interesting one. We're going to get to a couple of questions before we get out of here. Once again, family, absolutely magnificent talk tonight, with Dr. Wesley Muhammad. King Simon is sharing Dr. Wesley Muhammad's information in the chat. If you would like his report on what we have been talking about tonight, you can send $10 to his Cash App or PayPal. Leave your email so he can send you the file, and those are on the screen, the Cash App and the PayPal. All right. With that being said, I want to get to one question because this was actually a question I wanted to ask. But this Miss Supernatural says, has Dr. Wesley Muhammad spoke about 3-Eye Atlas? My question was going to be, has the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan spoke about 3-Eye Atlas? So if you can answer those for us, that'll be great, Dr. Wesley.
I have not heard the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan speak of Three-Eyed Atlas.
Mm-hmm.
And I have not either because I'm still studying it. I personally, as of this evening, don't have a conclusion on Three-Eyed Atlas. There are some anomalous behavior. So I'm interested, but it is not sufficient. I have not seen anything verified. Now, there's a lot of stuff online about Three-Eyed Atlas. Most of it is internet generated. And I totally dismiss it. For me, right now, I don't have enough. I have not seen enough certified hardcore anomalies strong enough to say that this is the mother wheel, that this is artificial. I don't know. It could be, but I'm not there yet. So I have been spoken on it because until I'm clear in my mind on something, I don't say anything about it.
Okay.
So I don't know. I'm still studying Three-Eyed Atlas. Everybody thought, what was December 12th, a couple of days ago, Three-Eyed Atlas was going to reveal itself and the aliens was going to jump out the craft, and then it came and went like Y2K. Right? So I resist engaging in that clickbait theatrics.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't have a conclusion on Three-Eyed Atlas yet. When I do, I will go public with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have a conclusion. I'm still watching. I think most of what UFO people have been doing with Three-Eyed Atlas is very irresponsible.
There's a question. The chat moving so fast. I keep okay. You talked about this before. I would love for you to speak on this again. Sharif wants to know, what did the government find when they arrested the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad? What is the significance of their findings?
Yeah. Very, very important. So let me try to, I want to walk us through some very important key points in history.
Okay.
I don't want to just answer that question. I want to illustrate the answer to the question.
Okay. All right.
That's what I do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So there's some key points I want to run through. February 1942, the so-called Battle of Los Angeles. That event, the true grandfather event of modern ufology, wasn't Kenneth Arnold's seeing flying saucers in Washington. No. The so-called Battle of Los Angeles, February 1942. The mother wheel itself and a fleet of baby planes flew down the coast, up and down the coast of Los Angeles, of California. The U.S. Army shot 1,400 rounds of their best ammunition at the mother wheel, and it did nothing to it. Most know about the Battle of LA, but most know about it wrong. But what's important in answering the question, February 1942, the mother wheel introduced itself to President Roosevelt, who was looking for Rudra Kalkrin. President Roosevelt was a theosophist. He believed that the king of Shambhala, the last king of Shambhala, called Rudra Kalkrin, the one with the wrathful wheel, the wrathful one with the wheel. This Messiah of Shambhala was going to appear in the last days with wrath, with a wheel. Ruger Cochran appeared to President Roosevelt February 1942. The mother wheel and the baby planes appeared in California and introduced themselves to President Roosevelt. Now, President Roosevelt and the government didn't know what they were experiencing. In September 1942, the FBI arrested the Honorable Elijah Muhammad upon the orders of President Roosevelt, because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was publicly teaching about these wheels. The FBI arrested the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, took him into custody, confiscated his drawings of the wheel, and questioned him about the wheel. And we have in the FBI files of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad the statement he gave to the FBI regarding the wheel. He let the government know, the FBI know, that these are black angels, Muslims flying the craft that President Roosevelt encountered in February. Now, in 1942, the government heard, they took the record, they confirmed to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that the craft are real. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave them the context that these are black people and they are Muslims. The government probably did not necessarily accept that part of it, that part of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's disclosure at that time. That's why Allah gave them Roswell. The Roswell incident confirmed to the U.S. government the truth of what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. Because understand, there's the issue of the objects, the flying objects. The FBI said to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you're right, these things do exist. But the deeper matter is the matter of the beings that are piloting them. When the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told the FBI that these are black people, these are Muslims, the craft, the design of the craft, the blueprint of this craft originated in the holy city of Mecca. It was transferred to the Japanese when it was time to construct the craft. This is what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told the FBI. Any doubts that the FBI had regarding that part of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's revelation, the part about the black Muslims who are flying it, any doubt that the FBI entertained in 1942, they were disabused of in July 1947. The Roswell crash did not resulted in the U.S. government taking possession of craft, but not Skinny Bob type aliens. This is not what the U.S. government took possession of in 1947. This is what the U.S. government took possession of in 1947. Black Asiatic bodies. Now, what's important here is what the Roswell recovery set off. Everybody knows about Project Blue Book, the Air Force's classified investigation of the UFO phenomenon. But what the public doesn't know, what most don't know, is underneath Project Blue Book was an ultra secret Project Collins Elite. the Collins Elite Project, a much deeper, much more secret investigation of the UFO and the bodies that were recovered at Roswell. Now, see, this is closer to what they look like. This is closer to what the U.S. government had in its possession in 1947, confirming what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told them in 1942, that these were black people flying the craft. The government had the bodies of black people in 1947. Now, this triggered an ultra secret investigation. This gentleman, and in my book, I wrote a report, I published a report on Roswell, and I go into detail confirming the witnesses that say specifically the bodies recovered at Roswell were black. Now, this gentleman is important, and I will land this part of the plane here. This is Air Force Staff Sergeant Charles Brian Bosley. Air Force Staff Sergeant Charles Brian Bosley. It's very important to this narrative. He was part of a crash retrieval unit, crash and casualty retrieval unit for the Air Force, meaning whenever there's a crash, there's a unit that's dispatched to retrieve the casualties, the bodies. Regular Air Force. If there's an Air Force crash or any other crash from the sky, his unit was deployed to retrieve, in particular, the casualties, the bodies. Casualty retrieval unit he was a part of. In 1958, Staff Sergeant Charles Bosley and two of his colleagues were called to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. Those who study Roswell know that it is at Wright-Patterson that the craft and the biological material, the bodies, were sent to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. In 1958, Staff Sergeant Charles Bosley and two of his colleagues were routed to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and given a briefing. They were being prepared for a specific crash retrieval mission. So they were given a briefing on Roswell. This was 1958. They were shown some of the craft material, the famous metallic foil. They were also shown the retrieved bodies during this briefing. Staff Sergeant Charles Bosley later revealed to his son, Walter Bosley, who also was intelligence in the U.S. Air Force intelligence and the FBI. He revealed to his son, Walter Bosley, and his family that according to that briefing, that 1958 briefing, the U.S. government had come to a conclusion based on their investigation, their post-Roswell investigation. Bosley said that the bodies he saw were totally human. He specifically said they looked nothing like the great aliens of Steven Spielberg's movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. They looked nothing like the grays that became popular. And he is the third Roswell witness that specifically said the bodies that they saw look nothing like the gray aliens that have become popular. But further, Staff Sergeant Charles Bosley said that during the briefing, they were informed that the Collins Elite investigation, that ultra secret UFO investigation, revealed that the people behind the craft do not come from outer space. They come from a crypto-terrestrial and sacred terrestrial civilization. What does that mean? Bosley was informed that the people, the culture from which the Roswell people came, was a people that lived in a world inside the earth. Crypto-terrestrial, a hidden civilization that existed inside the earth itself. Bosley was told that this civilization, they are completely human in form, but they have not only advanced technology, they have advanced psychotronic power. Psychotronic, what is called telepathy, ESP, psychokinesis. They had the power of the brain that frightened the Collins Elite investigators. And for this reason, the Collins Elite defined these human pilots of the craft as demons. Non-human intelligences, but non-human in the theological sense, not the extraterrestrial or biological sense. Biologically, they were completely human. But theologically, they had the power and they were directing their great occult power against the U.S., against the Christian West. So the Collins Elite investigation determined that they were demons, black demons that were against the Christian order.
Wow.
This is a black Muslim crypto civilization, which Ronald Reagan was briefed on in July 1982 and accepted as a reality. So when you hear, family, Lou Elizondo and all of the government whistleblowers on Capitol Hill, notice when the congressman tried to say, tell us about the extraterrestrials or the aliens, Lou Elizondo and the other whistleblowers say, no, we don't use that language. They use the language non-human, by which they mean black demon. But by demon, they mean a biblical angel who has ill intentions for the Christian West. They are using demon in a theological sense, not in a biological sense. Now, I can want to show.
Once again, I want to give a shout out to everybody. I mean, wow, Wesley put in work tonight, y'all. Wesley, if this was a basketball game, you might have dropped 60 tonight, Wesley. You might have dropped 60, man. If this was a
praise belongs to Allah. Do you see my screen?
Yeah, got you.
See this image?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when you hear, family, I'm gonna land this plane here, and before we leave, I want one Ariel specific video I want to show to make a final point.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to make this point.
Mm-hmm.
Dear family, whenever you tune in to the UAP hearings on Capitol Hill and you hear the whistleblowers refer to the pilots of these craft as non-human intelligences, this is what you should have in mind. What are you looking at? What does that mean? Now, they don't look like this, but they're depicted like this for a particular reason that undergirds the current whistleblowers and their language, non-human intelligence. Now, understand that language, non-human intelligence, originated with the Collins elite, the ultra-secret government investigation into the UFO phenomena as a result of the Roswell recoveries. The Collins elite came to a particular conclusion that the UFOs are not extraterrestrial, that the UFOs represent a spiritual enemy against America. The Collins elite, these are military crusaders. They are Christian military crusaders. They saw their military mission in a Christian crusader context. And the Collins elite concluded that the spiritual entities behind the UFO phenomena were angels, were malevolent angels, were angels who have ill intentions for the Christian West. And because these angels, and they agree with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who said that these are angels flying the UFO. And these angels have ill intentions for the Christian West. The Collins elite's conclusion exactly parallels the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's revelation. The Collins elite's conclusion was that these spiritual powers in human form, they're angels, but they're malevolent angels. And by definition, that means they are demons. The demonology that the Collins elite project wrapped the UFO secret in is well illustrated by this image right here. What is this image? This image is a 15th century image from a 15th century European manuscript, the Book of the Vineyard of our Lord. It depicts the Last Judgment. In this image, so when the Collins elite says the UFOs are flown by demons, what they mean by demons is captured symbolically in this image right here. Not literally, but symbolically in this image right here. In this image, you have a Christ up top sitting on a rainbow throne. Of course, Christ is white. Under Christ is Satan. Now, Satan is composed of two colors. He is black and green. And beside him are two of his associates, two demons, a black one and a green one. The reason Satan in post-Crusades demonological iconography, the iconography of Christian demonology, Satan was called the black man. Literally, this is what he was called in medieval Christianity, the black man. And it was the black-faced Muslims with whom the white crusaders engaged in battle that represented Satan for medieval Christian demonology. So the blackness of Satan here alludes to the literal black skin of the enemy. The green of Satan identifies the color of Islam, because it was during the time of the Crusades where green became the universal color for Islam. So this black and green Satan symbolically represents the enemy of the Christian West, the black-faced Muslims with whom the Crusaders were warring. Now,
Are you talking about the Moors, Dr. Wesley?
absolutely, but
Okay.
absolutely. But they called them the Saracens. Now with the Moors, because there's a lot of misunderstanding even in so-called Afrocentric scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of the Moors weren't North Africans.
Right.
The black Saracens that are depicted in medieval iconography, Christian iconography, they were indigenous black Arabs, specifically from the Arabian tribe Banu Azd. The Saracens that are depicted black-faced in European iconography are black Arabs, because the true Arab is black. Now, the Banu Azd had a complement. They were joined by North African Moors, but the Saracens in particular are black Arabs from Arabia, joined with North African Moors, and these two are who founded Moor civilization in Europe. But during the Crusades, but what's important here for the demonology of the ufology, see, the Pentagon's ufology, the Pentagon's conclusion of the UFO phenomenon is a Christian demonology. They are black and they are Muslim. This is how the Collins elite understood the demons who are flying the UFOs and threatening America existentially, threatening Christianity existentially. And this is what the whistleblowers hint at when they say non-human intelligence. Black Muslims are the demons that the U.S. government has been poised to fight and preparing to fight since Roswell.
All right. You want to play a video before we get out of here, Dr. Wesley?
Yes.
Yeah.
Back to Ariel, and I land this plane. So, in terms of the misremembering, because somebody said in the comments, well, why don't you? The witnesses are alive today, and they've been speaking. And the video I'm going to show you illustrates the point that I made earlier. Children tell the truth, grown-ups lie. Many people have saw the 2022 documentary, The Ariel Phenomenon. It's the most recent documentary on this incident. And two key persons in this documentary are two witnesses. Let me Let's go here. Two of the witnesses that are featured in the documentary, Lisa Pele, now Lisa Fields, and Salma Sadiq. In the film, you hear both of them describing the beings they saw as pasty white in color, their face. This is why the narrative today says the aliens had a pasty white face. They draw their inspiration today from Lisa Pele. Today, she's Lisa Field. When she was a witness, because that's a married name, Lisa Pele, little 11-year-old girl, a witness. Now she's grown. And the producer of Ariel phenomenon, Randall, Randall Nickerson. Yeah. Randall Nickerson is the producer of this documentary. And he did, in the film, did manipulation. That documentary, Ariel Phenomenon, is a deliberate misremembering of the Ariel event. And Randall Nickerson recruited Lisa Pele, or now Lisa Fields, and Salma Sadiq, two black women today, black girls at the time. He recruited them to participate in the misremembering of Ariel. And I document that. I want to highlight here so you can see with your own eyes and ears the misremembering. Lisa Pele became a leader of sorts among the child witnesses. Investigators consistently interviewed her and she spoke on behalf of the group. So we have, not document, at least 6 interviews that the child witness, Lisa Pele, gave describing what she saw. And in the video you're going to see many of her verbal testimony at when she was a child. And then you're going to see grown Lisa Field, now connected with Randall Nickerson for the purpose of putting out his documentary. And you're going to see and hear the change, the pivot, the course correction in her testimony.
Lisa, and what did you see? Well, I saw the thing it was shaped, it was like lying down like this on the side, and I saw a black man. He was dressed in black, and he had big eyes. Show me with your hand how big the eyes were. It was shaped like something like that. What did you think it was? Well, I thought twice. I put it as an alien, and then I thought maybe it was the garden or something. Oh, you thought it was an alien, and then you thought it was the garden. Oh, well, I have to look at the garden. And then you see this black man dressed in black, and he had long hair to black. It's more than 1.5 years ago, that the UFO landed here. Yeah, who can tell me exactly what happened? Okay, go ahead. We were playing on the log. Yeah. And then we saw something shiny, so we all ran down over there. And it was in the early morning? It was at break time. Yeah. And then we saw something shiny. And we saw two people. They were in black, tight black suit. And they had big eyes. And a small, we didn't actually see their nose. It was quite small. And their mouth was quite small as well. One of them was running in slow motion up across the ship. And the other one was standing beside the ship. During break time, we were playing in the field, and then we just saw some flickering of lights near the dam, and then we just saw this silver thing. We just saw the silver thing that had just stood there, and we saw two people. One had long hair, the other one was bald, and they both had big eyes. And then all the grade ones were all scared. They were all crying. So then the prefects and I went to the teacher to go and tell them about this. They didn't believe us. We were all playing in the playground when I noticed a silver saucer that just came and it hovered. I then saw two beings come out. I didn't see them actually standing. They were like hovering. They were very white in color. The eyes were really big, black. They were wearing like tight black clothing, sort of like a scuba diving outfit. But one of them, which I had noticed, had hair. They were also quite short. Dressed like in black, and all I could really see was its face, really, really white in color. It was like as if.
So, in my report, I quote verbatim all of the available testimony of the child witness, Lisa. Mm-hmm. Never does she ever mention a white face. Twice she says specifically she saw black men. And because they were exotic, or because they were with the craft, she thought they were alien. But then she said her final thought was, no, it must be the gardener. Now, the gardener of Ariel school was a black man. And so child witness, Lisa, confirmed she saw a black man across all of the available testimony of child witnesses. And there are 6 that I quote verbatim in this report, because this is a forensic analysis across, and these statements cover a 3-year period from 1994 to 1997. 6 interviews we have available from Lisa. And never does she ever mention a white face. Never. It is only grown Lisa, who is now a married grown woman and part of the Randall Nickerson movie project, for the first time says what she saw was a pasty white face. None of the children at the time said that, and Lisa never said that. And we have sufficient material from her, from child Lisa, that if there was a white face that she saw, it would have been mentioned across at least 6 statements that child Lisa gave describing what she saw. She said she saw a black man, never mentioned a white face. Grown Lisa has been conscripted into the Misremembering project of Ariel. I can show, but for time I won't. The same with Salma Sadiq. How the film Ariel Phenomenon, produced by Randall Nickerson, visually changed Salma Sadiq's testimony. They changed the picture that she drew. She drew a picture. I'm sorry, I gotta show it. She drew a picture, and the face that she drew was a brown-skinned face that she drew in 1994. However, in the 2022 Randall Nickerson documentary, he digitally redrew Salma Sadiq's 1994 image. No longer is the being that she saw with a brown face and cat eyes, according to the digital redraw that we encounter in the documentary. The being she saw was a gray face with gray alien eyes. Child Salma Sadiq drew a brown-faced being with human eyes, white sclera, iris, and pupil. The 2022 Ariel phenomenon documentary changed that to a gray-faced being with black alien eyes. So this is just some of the forensic evidence of the deliberate misremembering of Ariel. And so because of this effort of deliberate misremembering, the public has been led to believe that what showed up in Ruwa, Zimbabwe on September 16th, 1994, and experienced by at least 62 students was this. But this isn't what the children described. This is what the misremembering, the less than honest grown-ups are describing. What the children described looked more like this.
Yeah. You did. This was amazing. Once again, you got everybody glued to the screen. We still got almost 2,000 people in the chat. Before we get out of here, once again, tell the people how they could get this 94-page report that you put together that we have been talking about tonight, my brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you. This is a forensic analysis. It's not speculation. It's not rhetoric. It's hardcore historiography, history writing. You can get it by sending $10 to either my Cash App or my PayPal. Send $10 and your email address, and I will email you a PDF copy of the report. My Cash App is Dr. Wesley. Cash it $ Dr. Wesley, DrWesley. $ Dr. Wesley. My PayPal is Dr. Wesley Muhammad at gmail.com. Wesley, Wesley, Muhammad, Muhammad at gmail.com. Further, you can get the book. This report isn't in this book, but you can get the full book, 500 pages, Chariots of the Black Gods, from my website, www.drwesley.info, info. So Dr. Wesley, drwesley.info.
Man, hey, Dr. Wesley, I didn't know you was coming this hard tonight. I knew you was gonna come on, with some information, but that's
a level of respect I have for your platform, and you keep big guns on your platform. So I can't I can't come any less.
Indeed. Keek Simon said that was a good presentation. Indeed. With that being said, anything else you want to let the people know before we get out of here? Dr.
Keep up the good work, brother Radiohead Rich. You do an excellent job, and I'm an admirer
Thank you, my brother.
and the supporter. I pray Allah continues to bless you with this great work that you're doing.
Thank you, my brother. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Make sure one more. Let me share this on the screen one more time. Please, after somebody talks for 2 hours, this brother's standing and talking for 2 hours. After somebody go that hard in the paint with a presentation, I need all of y'all to get this book tonight. All of y'all, and it's only $10. So make sure you hit up the brother's PayPal or Cash App. With that being said, we getting out of here. Tune in tomorrow, family, 9 o'clock. Rod Hayes will be on the channel. So tune in tomorrow, 9 o'clock. Rod Hayes. With that being said, Dr. Wesley, I'm going to talk to you soon. My brother, I tell you, I want to have a panel, like an extraterrestrial, black extraterrestrial panel. And you know I got to have you on this. So I want to have you, Billy Carson, probably Rod Hayes, and probably Sharif. Probably the brother Sharif. That'll be a dope panel. Yeah. Indeed. I'm gonna set that up before the end of February. I'm gonna set that'll be good for February, family. So I'm gonna line that up for February. But with that being said, we get out of here. Thank you, my brother. I'm gonna talk to you soon.
Thank you. Peace.
All right. Family, I will see all of y'all tomorrow, 9 o'clock. Rod Hayes. Have a good night, family. Thanks for tuning in. Peace and blessings.